Something was terribly wrong in the freezing Ural Mountains. 9 experienced hikers set off into the snow in 1959 and never returned. Days passed, then weeks. When rescuers finally reached their last known campsite, they uncovered a scene straight out of a nightmare. The hikers' tent had been slashed open from the inside as if they had desperately tried to escape. Their bodies were found scattered across the mountainside, some nearly a mile away, half dressed in sub-zero temperatures. But the most horrifying details? Some had suffered crushed skulls and broken ribs, injuries too severe to be caused by a simple fall. One victim was missing her tongue, and yet there were no signs of a struggle, no tracks but their own. Can you believe it? Soviet investigators were baffled. The official report blamed an unknown compelling force, but speculation ran wild. Was it an avalanche? A secret military experiment gone wrong? A Yeti attack? Some even whisper about infrasound waves, capable of driving humans into a state of panic and delirium. Others suggest radiation exposure, as traces were found on some of the victims' clothes. But here's the scariest part. More than 60 years later, no theory fully explains what happened on that icy night. Each explanation has holes, leaving the Dyatlov Pass Incident one of the most terrifying unsolved mysteries of all time. Whatever the truth is, it may have died with the hikers in the cold, silent darkness of the Ural Mountains. The world was watching. Amelia Earhart, a fearless aviator and global icon, was on the final stretch of her groundbreaking flight around the world when suddenly, radio silence. On July 2nd, 1937, somewhere over the vast Pacific Ocean, her last transmission crackled through. "We are running low on fuel. We are on the line 157337. And then, nothing. Her plane, a Lockheed Electra, vanished without a trace. Doesn't that sound impossible? The US government launched the most extensive air and sea search in history, scouring thousands of miles of open ocean, but not a single confirmed piece of wreckage was found. Most believe that she and her navigator, Fred Noonan, simply ran out of fuel and crashed into the sea, but others insist she landed on a remote island, surviving as a castaway. Then there are the darker theories. Was she captured by the Japanese and accused of being a spy? Did she secretly return under a new identity? Decades later, skeletal remains were found on a Pacific island, reigniting the mystery. DNA testing, however, failed to provide conclusive proof. How can a plane just disappear without a trace? No black box, no debris, no final answer. Nearly a century later, Amelia Earhart's fate remains one of the most chilling and perplexing mysteries of all time. One that may never be solved. A stretch of ocean where ships vanish, planes disappear, and compasses spin wildly. Welcome to the Bermuda Triangle, one of the most feared places on Earth. This mysterious region, stretching between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, has been the site of hundreds of unexplained disappearances. For decades, vessels and aircraft traveling through the zone have simply vanished without a trace. Entire ships have been discovered drifting aimlessly, fully intact, but without a single crew member on board. Pilots have radioed distress calls, describing strange cloud formations and malfunctioning instruments, only to suddenly fall silent, never to be heard from again. And the most chilling part? No wreckage is ever found. How can that be? Scientists offer rational explanations, blaming unpredictable weather, rogue waves, and even methane gas eruptions from the ocean floor that could cause ships to sink instantly. But conspiracy theories paint a much darker picture. Some believe the triangle is a portal to another dimension, swallowing travelers whole. Others whisper about top-secret underwater military bases or even extraterrestrial involvement. No one knows for sure. What we do know is that the Bermuda Triangle continues to baffle experts and terrify sailors and pilots alike. And if you ever find yourself traveling through it, just remember that many have entered, but not all have returned. Will you? Where did an entire colony disappear without a trace? In 1587, over 100 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, eager to establish a permanent colony. Led by John White, they built homes, planted crops, and prepared for a new life in the New World. But when White sailed back to England for supplies and returned 3 years later, the colony was gone. Every single person, man, woman, and child, had vanished. Can you believe it? There were no signs of battle, no bodies, no distress signals. The only clue was a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. White believed this meant the settlers had moved to a nearby island of the same name, but when he tried to search, a violent storm forced him back to the sea. He never saw his people again. So what really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Some believe they integrated with local Native American tribes, while others suspect starvation, disease, or even a massacre. More chilling theories suggest that they fell victim to supernatural forces or were abducted by something far beyond human comprehension. More than 400 years later, no solid evidence has ever been found. No remains, no artifacts, no answers. Just one question that still haunts historians. How can an entire colony disappear without a single trace? Who writes an entire book in an unbreakable code, then disappears without a trace? The Voynich Manuscript is one of the history's most baffling mysteries, discovered in 1912 by rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich. This strange manuscript is filled with bizarre illustrations of unknown plants, celestial charts, and human figures engaged in puzzling activities. But the real mystery lies in its text, written in an unknown language that no one, not even the best cryptographers, has been able to decode. Doesn't that just sound impossible? Some believe that the manuscript is a lost scientific or medical text, possibly written in the Middle Ages. Others think it's an elaborate hoax, though the detailed patterns and linguistic structure suggest otherwise. There are even theories that it came from an advanced civilization, or that it holds secrets beyond human comprehension. And here's when it gets even weirder. Modern carbon dating suggests that the manuscript was written in the early 1400s. That means it has defied coding attempts for over 600 years. Even with artificial intelligence and advanced linguistic analysis, no one has cracked its meaning. So what does the Voynich manuscript really say? Is it a forgotten treasure of knowledge, a coded message from the past, or just a medieval prank? Until someone unlocks its secrets, it remains one of the history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Is this the true face of Jesus, or the greatest religious hoax in history? The Shroud of Turin is one of the most mysterious and controversial relics in the world. This ancient linen cloth bears the faint image of a man who appears to have been crucified, complete with wounds on his hands, feet, and side. Many believe it to be the actual burial shroud of Jesus Christ, imprinted with his image at the moment of the resurrection. But is it real? Can you believe that scientists have been trying to solve this mystery for decades? Carbon dating tests in 1988 suggested that the cloth was from the Middle Ages, placing it between 1260 and 1390. However, critics argued that the sample used was contaminated and that newer studies point to an origin much older, possibly around the time of Jesus. Some researchers claim that the image is not painted, but rather a result of an unknown energy burst. Others say it's a masterful medieval forgery created with techniques we still can't explain today. So, is the Shroud of Turin a divine relic, an elaborate hoax, or something else entirely? Despite countless investigations, no one has definitely proven how the image was formed or whether it truly belonged to Jesus. Until science can provide a final answer, the shroud remains one of the history's most sacred and unsolved mysteries. Could this be the key to an ancient lost language, or is it just an elaborate hoax? Discovered in 1908 on the Greek island of Crete, the Phaistos Disc is one of the most baffling archaeological finds in history. This small clay disc, dating back over 3,500 years, is covered in a spiral of mysterious symbols, 241 in total, pressed into the clay with unique stamps. It's the world's first known example of printed text, but here's the problem: no one knows what it says. Can you believe that despite over a century of study, no scholar has cracked this code? Some think it's a form of the lost Minoan language, possibly an early script related to Linear A, another undeciphered writing system. Others believe it could be a religious prayer, a calendar, or even a board game. And then there are skeptics who suggest it might not be a real language at all. Some even claim it's a forgery created by a clever archaeologist. What makes the Phaistos Disc so unique is that there's nothing else like it. No other examples of these symbols have ever been found, leaving researchers with no reference point for translation. Is it the last surviving relic of an unknown civilization? A secret message from the past? Until we can decipher its meaning, the Phaistos Disc remains one of the greatest linguistic mysteries of all time. In the small town of Taos, New Mexico, a strange phenomenon has baffled residents for decades. A mysterious, low-frequency hum that only a fraction of the population can hear. Known as the Taos Hum, this untraceable noise has been reported since the early 1990s, driving some people to frustration, sleepless nights, and even health issues. But here's the strangest part: no one knows where it's coming from. Despite extensive studies by scientists and engineers, no definite source has ever been identified. The hum isn't picked up by microphones, and it doesn't seem to be linked to any obvious environmental or man-made cause. Some theories suggest that it's the result of underground geological activity, secret military experiments, or even electromagnetic interference. Others believe it's a psychological phenomenon, an auditory illusion that only certain people's ears can detect. Doesn't that just sound insane? Those who hear the hum describe it as a persistent, low droning noise similar to an idling diesel engine. It's often strongest at night and indoors, making it even harder to escape. While similar hums have been reported in other parts of the world, Taos remains the most famous case. So, is it real, or is it all in just people's heads? Until science provides a concrete explanation, the Taos Hum remains one of the most bizarre unsolved mysteries in modern history. Which mystery intrigued you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know if you'd like to see a part 2 exploring more historical enigmas. Join us next time as we delve deeper into the stories of mystery and wonder, because every mystery has a tale worth telling.